What's up, everybody? My name is Ashley Catherine Fontanez, and I'm an artist, and I'm gonna let you in on a little bit of a painting morning. I guess that's what we're gonna call it. Here with my buddy, Mr. Peepz, and got some paints, and got some coffee and some paintbrushes, and we're in my kitchen. So let's get started here. I've been an artist about maybe my entire life. I'd say I'm 28 years old. I've been painting since I was 5 or so, maybe. But something I get asked a lot is what kind of materials I use. So I guess we could start by introducing the materials. All right. So I work with the cheapest paints known to man. Well, maybe there's cheaper, but I use craft paint. I've been using craft paint for a long time. I was trained in oils, but eventually said, who cares, and started working with the craft paint. A little trick that I learned from my mom, because it's really not, you kind of just make what you can with what you have. So, not that I don't have the money to buy normal paint, it's just that I paint so much. That's basically it. And the same thing with the brushes. I destroy mine, ruin them. So I use the cheapest brushes out there because I can't be bothered. Sketchbooks, on the other hand, I'll probably spend a little bit more. Go with the Strathmore because they're pretty, well, I do, because they're pretty reliable, but sometimes I will use, you know, something cheap if I have to, or just whatever I have. Lay out a little paper towel boy and get some reference. I'm in a skull phase right now, maybe. I don't know, it's not just a phase, Mom. This is gonna last forever. That's my Mr. Peeper friend. Got him at a craft store around Halloween time, right after Halloween for 50% off. And of course, my trusty Wawa. Shout out to Wawa, they're not sponsoring this video. Something that I typically do is I like to work with a really straight edge. So I typically will tape down or use some type of a mat. As you can see here, I've kind of rigged this little folder on top, staple in the back, so I can lift up. Mr. Peepz, if you please, would you please help me? Come on. Okay. So I can, you know, have a nice clean edge whenever I want. Kind of works. Could be better. You know what? I think I know the problem here. That's what I tell myself. So we're just gonna start. We're gonna get started. Shout out to Wawa and to Goya. I'm painting in my kitchen. Have my own studio, but something else I learned from my mom is you probably don't get any better light than in your kitchen. If you have a kitchen, you know, props to the kitchens out there. I don't know, it's always a fun warm-up to paint something dead, so, but with some bright, fun colors, because that's what I kind of do. So we're just gonna, you know, maybe we'll just start out with a nice little background. And I think I want to go with my little Peepz. We're gonna start by mixing some colors. Typically for a palette, I'll use maybe like a foam tray or a dish or a plate, like a paper plate. I'm using this OG old-fashioned soaps container. I don't know where this came from. I just dropped it, but that's fine. So we're just gonna, and I used it before, obviously, but we're just gonna go back in with a little perp. Yeah, look at that. This is a nice little warm purple. I don't know. So one of my favorite things to do is paint a background. No, said nobody ever, but something you gotta do. You can see I'm just getting a nice little mix going on. Nice little mid-tone there, a little periwinkle maybe. I like to test it out. You know, these colors are cheap, but they mix eventually. You just gotta get in there. You gotta know what you're mixing with first, or else they turn muddy pretty quick. Yeah, see, look how much darker that is compared to what it kind of looked like in the palette. So that's okay. We're just gonna get it out there and see what happens with it. I like to start with my lighter colors in the center, and since this is really just a paint sketch, we don't have to worry too much about it bleeding through the paper, because, I mean, who cares? I'm using a sketchbook right now. It's pretty dangerous, actually. You see that bubbling? If you're not too careful, the paintbrush will just kind of go right through. So, you know, you don't want to overwork the paper. You want it to work for you, right? Okay. So I remixed some of that purple with some lighter blue because I want to go even lighter in the center. I just got to be careful, you know, but the paint that's already on there gives this paint something to grip to. Not sure if you've ever heard of anybody gessoing a canvas before, but it's a similar situation. I typically don't work with canvas, so, you know, and I like to be nice and rough with my paint strokes. If you can see, there's a little bit of a meat to it there with that little contrast. That's what, you know, that's what I like to do. So I'm just gonna keep pushing this out. What the hell is that? What the hell is that? Okay, it's gone. All right, we're just gonna keep going. Oh, now there's a big old purple wiener here. Well, it's, I don't know, a wiener dog, or hot dog, you know. That's okay. Something I learned in my travels of life is that you want your closer objects in the foreground to be darker. I mean, you don't have to, but it plays a nice little trick on the eye there, you know. Okay, so we got a nice little mid-tone middle ground here. Some clouds maybe. I don't know. We can, you know, looks, I'm not really sure what our light source is going to be yet, but, you know. So now I'm going to mix some for our foreground here. And, you know, I mean, I've been told this so many times, never work with the paint right out of the tube. However, when you're working with 75-cent tubes of paint, you can do whatever the hell you want. Art is art. I went to art college, and it was okay. All right, so now for this foreground, you know, you're gonna wanna so you can see something going on here with a foreground, a middle ground, and a background. Now some little smoky, get even darker. So, anyways, you could kind of see I'm building on that depth there, which is super fun, sort of, but you can also probably tell I'm rushing right through it. Which is fine. It's, you know, we could just use this opportunity to talk about life. I mean, you know. And something else I decided to do last minute. What the hell? Libby? Libby? Come on, man. I'm filming here, man. Something else I wanted to do was kind of like add some balance to this little paint sketch here. As you can see, we've got a line moving on a diagonal now. Your eye should start here, go down, or something like that, so I'm told. We've got a cat. It's all good things. And I'm actually, am I starting with the right color? Who cares? If you make a mistake, you can just paint over it. Paint is like that. So I'm gonna lighten this up a little bit. You know, I've been told that every day of my life, to lighten up, whatever. So keep on going. Yeah, let's see how the old framey boy's doing. kind of working. It's kind of doing a job. It's just keeping me off the edge there. You know, something you couldn't say for a lot of people in my life. Yeah, so I'm just gonna keep on pounding it. You can see there's some actually some pretty natural things going on right now. Like you can see this peeking through there. This paint I put on, this layer is a little thin. If you ever need to thin anything out with this type of paint, a little water works just fine. So yeah, so I'm kind of just building interest here, you know. At least somebody is, and I can't say the same for my bank account. Hey, like that, Mr. Peepz? Okay, excuse me, I have asthma, so you might hear me breathing sometimes. It's kind of a little messy right now, but you know, maybe I can use my little magic here, and you know, in the blink of an eye, make it look even better. Let's see if we can do that. Okay, so what I did here was I added a cooler purple to the mix. That's that bad boy that I over poured. That's that bad boy right there. It might look exactly the same to some people as this violet, but it's a little bit cooler. It's got a little bit more blue in it, but it's also a little bit more vibrant, and so it's probably got a little bit more white in it too, but it kind of just brings a nice little bit of pop or depth. I don't know what you want to call that, but it brings something. So you can see here the paper is bubbling, so what we're going to do is we're going to let this dry a little bit, then come back and start actually sketching Mr. Peepz on here. Okay, so I'm back, and you can see that the little bubbles actually kind of evened out a little bit. I tried to, well, I had to, like, you know, kind of pull gently at it like this to, you know, remind the paper who's boss, because we are humans. So, you know, we've evolved past the paper, but I went and I grabbed a new palette because it's getting kind of purple over here. It's kind of purple here too, but remember, this is all dry. But yeah, I like to use this is a jewelry box cover. I like to use stuff like this because it reduces waste, and it's actually hard and sturdy, and you can reuse it a couple times until you have to toss it. Moved Mr. Peepz over here because he's being a little just trying to adjust my light. Normally, if I'm working on a normal size piece, or let's get this receipt out of the way. Normally, if I was working on a regular size piece, there would be all sorts of thought put into which way he was looking, or, you know, because my work is all about symbolism and neuroticism and OCD, just like me. But this time we're just going to go with a simple 3/4 tilt. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I picked out some colors already. So we're going to work with these contrasting peachy tones here. I've got something of a light coral, a coral suave, a pumpkin, and it's actually kind of low. That's okay, we won't really use too much of it. And then I've got this Rosemary. Oh, shout out to my Aunt Rosemary. If you're watching, probably not. Probably don't even know that I'm doing this. And I think Mr. Peepz is, I think he's ready. If you haven't used these craft paints in a while, they kind of, sometimes they'll settle, the paint will settle near the tip, or it'll harden up, or it'll get really hard to, you know, to squish anything out, so you want to give it a good shaky shake. I'm gonna try to go for a medium-sized brush. Alright, be right back. Alright, I got my trusty little supply box here a friend gave me. I like to, you know, use old cardboard boxes for everything. We are gonna go with, I think this one's okay. Yeah, it's not completely destroyed, but it's one of my favorite brushes. Just gonna get this one nice and wet. Yeah. So here I'm using the very tip of this very damaged brush to just kind of get his outline going. kind of dry brush him sometimes. You know, dry brushing is when you kind of like, you go like that. You know, there's not a lot of water on the brush. He's got a little attitude there. I'm not really sure how I feel about this just yet, and I think it's because I'm painting through the lens. Yeah, I'm gonna just work my magic for a second. Alright, so what I've done with that peachy color is I've just blocked out some of my lightest points. Decided to go that way instead of, yeah, I guess it really depends on what you feel like doing. I mean, there's real technique somewhere in here, but I'm just kind of, you know, the lightest peach is really there. It's just really still wet. It'll look more like that, and I actually prefer my work to have some of the background peeking through because I like that raw, translucent texture that kind of comes through. Adding water to my brush when I need the paint to be thinner. It's a little thin, but you see what's happening there. Hopefully it dries down to a similar spot. But yeah, so I'm leaving parts that I want darker. And then, like, you know, looking back, seeing where the light hits Mr. Peepers, I'm just kind of going in there. He's got a fine jawline. I'm not gonna lie, it kind of reminds me of Colonel Sanders right now. He's kind of angry too. I didn't mean to make him look this angry. I was kind of drawing back for a second, like, what the hell am I doing in my life? But that's okay. I'm just gonna take some artistic license and make up some highlights. Oops, didn't mean to do that. That's okay, we're just gonna roll with it. You see how he looks much better from this side than he does this side. Something I like to do while I'm painting is stop myself and actually take out my camera or a mirror and look at different angles to see, wow, look at that condensation. Jesus. But try to see like what he looks like, make sure my proportions are correct, and look back, you see there's a lot more light over here, so around that little dimple. So I'm just gonna actually bring the peach up a little bit more. Dry brush on there. Painting on paper is tough because, you know, like if you're not used to working with a tooth, paper has a tooth. I don't know if you can kind of see that tooth right in there. I don't know. Yeah, there you go. Look at that tooth. Yeah, so it catches brush strokes. So it kind of catches the brush strokes and pulls the paint for you. You're not really supposed to use this type of paper, but let me just take a little peek underneath. It's looking pretty good. I do like a nice little rough edge. If it looks uniform, like margin-wise all the way around, which this does not. We're just sketching today, so. Okay, so as you can see, I've started to add that mid-tone orange. And as I feared, there wasn't a lot of it. So I kind of just mixed it with the peach, added a little water, and I'm just kind of stretching it out. I'm leaving the darkest parts of his skull the background, because I think I could do something really fun with that, right, Mr. Peepers? Yeah, so we're just kind of going in with, we're just going to use this as a code for like a mid-tone. And yeah, like I said, leave the darkest parts. That periwinkle color, I might actually go over some of the peach. I mean, it kind of looks like he's backlit in a way, which makes a lot of sense because the lightest part is this portion of the background. Lighting is super fun and not scary at all. The skull, because as you can see right there is a nice little shadow, kind of, you know, an easy, not an easy way, but just a little trick. If you paint in little, like a puzzle, like little portions, it kind of just seems like it's got more weight, like it's more real. Unless you want to appear weightless, then that's a whole other problem. But anyway, so my God, this is kind of psycho looking. Look at him. We're gonna go in with some darker colors to kind of make this a little bit more believable. All right, so I brought back some of the cool purple, but I mixed it in with some of my yellows. My brush is a little too wet. That's okay. I'm kind of trying to stretch this color out a little bit. It's got like this muddy magenta quality to it. So we're gonna, so yeah, I mean, like, if things get a little too crazy, remember, we're just sketching, so you kind of just want to just let things happen. I mean, look at him. He has a wonky eye. A face only a mother could love. So anyways, yeah. You see how, like, instant depth? I mean, he looks like he's seen better days, but oh well. But yeah, so I'm gonna go into some of my darker parts. And I'm actually gonna grab some of the purple, like straight from the tube, because I'm not in art college anymore. They can't tell me what to do, whatever your name is. My light color and design professor that used to say constantly that I didn't understand color. Well, freak you. I hope she's okay. She was an elderly woman. All right, so I have added some kind of insanity here with a little bit of purple, but I'm just gonna have to accept it because we're working on paper, so it's not as easy to correct mistakes on paper as it is on canvas. Like, you can't necessarily just wipe it off, but I'm just gonna work with it. I'm just gonna roll with it, kind of dry brushing out from that, creating a little bit more depth. And I think what it is the eye shape is probably these little orbital sockets. They're kind of not a normal shape. So you can see with these orbital sockets that they're kind of like a trapezoid or they're an oblong, oval, quadrilateral, rounded shape, whatever. And I've tilted them the wrong way. So what we're gonna do is we're just gonna go right over it. And who cares? Just get in there. So we're gonna reshape this, which is fine. It happens. But we're gonna try to make it somewhat even on both sides. And as you can see, you see this bone? That bone is super thin. So we're just gonna try to bring this socket all the way out to the bone. There you go. It's kind of better. Now he looks like me when I got my wisdom teeth taken out. His jaw is dislocated a little bit, but we'll work on that. Oh, good. Oh, it's a massacre. Okay. All right, I'm just gonna... All right, so when you have an issue like this, if it's wet enough, if you can catch it, like I spent 5 minutes describing how paper, you can't really correct your mistakes. And I'm not even sure if I was filming, so that's fine. You just blot it. And you know what, if you're lucky, you get a little friggin' texture in there. Look how much personality he's got now compared to here. He looks like he's bleeding from the mouth. That's wonderful. Oh God, I've made you look very unhealthy. I apologize. Some of this light color again. I'm gonna like actually highlight now. Trying to keep it where the brightest moments of Mr. Peepers' life are. Being interrupted again. Oh, so what I've started to do is outline Mr. Peepers a teeny bit, clean him up a bit with this lighter shade of blue that I used for mixing earlier, and I'm also going to use as a little trick to kind of improve on his proportions a little. It's super like stark and obvious, but it kind of fits into my style to add a little stroke because I want people to know that I'm actually painting this, that I'm not, you know, I mean, I used to work digitally, and I actually used to do this digitally too with my brushes to make it look a little bit more traditional. So I'm not sure you can tell by now, but I started to go over some of the foreground clouds with actually using more of this purple. I've noticed with these particular paints, this one, like this satin, oh shit, this satin like finish with the craft paint has been really impressive, and it's kind of just got a nice little glossy, you know, it's a couple brands now make it. It's literally like 79 cents instead of 75 cents or something like that, but it has a nice little glossy finish, and it's nice to mix too. And I can mix it with like some other craft paint. Mix is great. Like it doesn't give you some issues like other paints have where you can only mix it with the same brand, whatever, but you can literally just like mix these two and go to town. But yeah, I am leaving some of the rougher, muddier colors on there because I think it gives it a nice little character, a little bit of meat, a little grit. Okay, so I kind of went in and forgot to film it, but I started solving some things like proportion problems. Like you'll always run into some issues. You know, I started dry brushing some purple shadows in there to, you know, help with those proportion issues. And I'm kind of just cleaning things up. Still leaving that fabulous chin highlight. I'm also going to draw from it too and maybe get some of that magic up here. Okay, so you may have noticed I've decided to turn Mr. Peepers into a beautiful and gender ambiguous figure at the moment because I'm not really sure, but I'm gonna let it happen on its own. I'm saving that scrumptious neon blue for shadow under his neck. Give him a nice ruddy tone. There you go. That's, for some reason, I feel more comfortable. Does anybody else get like uncomfortable when they're wearing colors that they don't think match for them or don't think look good on them? I get like anxiety over it, and I guess it happens when I paint too. So one place I'm not gonna keep that purple tone is right up there. Going to hint at this ruddy color down here. Just kind of feeling a little bit more complete about life. Yeah, I mean, I might turn this into a larger piece. Sometimes I do some paint sketching when I'm really lost. Today I just wanted to do it for fun because I had the time. I'm just gonna, since there seems to be right up there. Just gonna like bring it down into the way the muscle. Oh my gosh, I always forget what this muscle group is called. But it's kind of like a triangular shape. It kind of connects your back, collarbone, and larynx areas. Yeah, I don't want him to be overdone looking either, like a, you know, like an 8th grade project. So there's the finished product without that little mat. That was kind of fun. I think I'm gonna do more of these, or maybe not if you don't want me to. If I'm too annoying, let me know. But yeah, if you like it, give it a like, subscribe. If not, you don't have to. Just check out my portfolio at ashleyfontanez.com, and spelled weird because my dad made up our last name. So yeah, so I'll put the link in the description, and you know, if you give me a dislike, you know, whatever, it's fine. I don't know. I don't really know how any of this works, but you know, thanks to Wawa for making such a great breakfast and keeping me going for the day. All right, and you have a great day. You say bye, Mr. Peepers. Okay, bye.